So you have decided that you're ready to start a medical billing business and you have a plan. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, then that means you need to watch this playlist that I'm going to link above that has in the videos to my series, Stepping Out in Business. We're on part 3 of this series, and today we're going to be talking about how much is this going to cost me. Now, y'all probably have been waiting for this because this is one of the most important things. It's one of them. The other 2 are really important as well, and this one is important too because if you don't have any money, or if you need to start this business and you don't have any money to start it, then there will be no business. So make sure you keep watching because I'm going to go all into how much is it going to cost me to start this medical billing business. Keep watching. My name is Tamika, and I'm a certified professional biller and a certified professional practice manager. So we're going to jump right into this because I know that is what you guys want to know. How much is it going to cost to open a medical billing business? So of course I have a little disclaimer because the cost of opening or starting your medical billing business is going to vary. Let me just put that out there. It's going to vary on a couple of things, and I'm going to try and go through them now, but I'm going to let you know in this video how much I paid to start my medical billing business, and it can kind of give you an idea of what you need to do, how much it'll cost, all of those good things. Again, this is what I paid. Other people may have paid other things depending on where they live, what they're doing, what they want to start it off with. So just keep that in mind because you will hear different people's stories and they will be paying different prices. There is no set price to start a medical billing business. Now, if you've heard my story about how I became a medical billing business owner, you would know that I was first a 1099 contractor. Again, if you haven't heard that story, I'll link it somewhere above. But I started off being a 1099 contractor, and then I opened my business and converted my client from there to the business. To be technical, I guess, as a 1099 contractor, you're technically a business. You're a sole proprietor, you still have to pay taxes, all of those things. So it's not like you're just doing this on the side, you're collecting on the money and you're not supposed to pay taxes on it. You're technically a business. So even if you haven't gotten a business license and all of the other things I'm going to explain that you would need for your business, you are still considered a sole proprietor in the eyes, I guess, of the law of the IRS. And you should be paying taxes on the money that you collect for doing 1099 contracting work. I don't think a lot of people realize that because sometimes you say, well, this is my side job, this is my side hustle, and all of that could be true, but anytime you make any type of income, the government wants it. So if you didn't know that, now you know. So even if you're doing this on the side, you should be paying taxes on this money. So the business that I'm going to be discussing is the one that is more than a sole proprietor. So it's not just like a freelancer or, like I said, a contractor. It's going to be actually like a structure of a business, meaning like a LLC or organization or a partnership. So it's more than just a sole proprietor, I guess, business, okay? Because sole proprietor is a business entity. And there are 2 things mainly that you need to start a business. So most people will say, oh, I started my business with $500. I started my business with $100. But that's because technically, as long as you have a business license and you may need other things, like I am an LLC, so I had to get my LLC formed and I got my business license. So technically, I'm a business. After I got my license, which my license here in the Virgin Islands cost $130, and then my LLC was $300. So technically, after spending under $500, which was what, $430, I was technically considered a business, right? Because that's all you need, a business license, and I needed to form my LLC. However, that's kind of like misleading, I believe, because you don't want to just start a business like with the basics, like especially a medical billing business. In my opinion, there are gonna be other things that you need. So if you have a business license and then you have like I have how I had an LLC and that's it, and then I start going out trying to get clients, I still need other things in place. And here is my list of things that I think you also need when you're wanting to start a business. I have it written down below, so on a book, so I'm going to be reading it off. Of course, you need like your equipment. Let's go through the equipment. So you need a computer, whether that's a laptop or a desktop. You need a printer, because although we do a lot of stuff online, you still need a printer and a shredder, a copy machine. Well, the printer is like an all-in-one. And these things range, so I'm not really giving prices, but you can get a printer, scanner, copier all-in-one for like $50-$60. You need to get a shredder because we deal with PHI, meaning protected health information, and we need to shred stuff, and you just can't just throw them in the garbage. So you need a shredder. You need computer protection, because the computer that you use, you need to have antivirus on it. You need to have firewall. You need to have all of those things that's going to help to protect the computer, especially if you are doing things maybe remotely or you're storing information on your computer. And anytime you have the internet on the computer, you know that we could get malware and Trojans and all of those things, and you want to make sure that you are good with that. So you need to have that in place. You also need to have a secured fax, because again, we're going away with these things, but there are a lot of clients, at least in my experience, that still uses fax, and that's how you can communicate with maybe receiving information from them. If they don't want to do it through, let's say, email or another HIPAA compliant way. You need to have a HIPAA compliant email, so that can also cost you. I have mine with Microsoft 365, so that's one that you can use. And of course there are many others, but all of these things cost you money. If, like I said, if you didn't have any of these equipment and you're trying to start a business, I don't think you would do very well, because now you don't have anything to work with. Yes, you have a business license. Yes, you have your LLC formed or your corporation formed or whatever formed, but you don't have the tools you need. So along with that business license, you need to have certain equipment, and I think that's my list of equipment that you at least need to have to start off. Then I would also suggest you having errors and omissions insurance. Now, I'll be honest, when I first started off, I didn't have that, because at first I didn't really even know I needed it. But when I found out I did, I got errors and omissions, because we are in a field where we can make mistakes, and that can cost a lot of money. And if people decide they want to sue and all of those things, you want to make sure that you're covered. Even though you are LLC, and that's a whole nother thing. I don't want to get into that. I am not an accountant, but LLC is limited liability company, meaning they necessarily can't go towards your personal assets and all of those things, but you still need to make sure that you have coverage as far as insurance is concerned when it comes to your business. I would say that you need to have a bookkeeping software, because you want to be able to keep track of the funds that you receive, keep them separate from your personal funds, and make sure that when it's at the end of the year and you do your taxes, you have those things separated. So I would say to have a bookkeeping software. You need to have a bank account also that's going to keep your funds separate. Like I said, personal. You don't want to be joining everything together, because then you're not going to know necessarily what's personal from what's business, and you want to keep those things separate, because you don't want them to start to intermingle, and then if something happens, they can start to intermingle with your personal stuff if this is your business, if something happens with your business. So I think all of those things is important to have. Also, let me not forget, because this is the structure part of it, I do think you need to have an accountant, someone who can help you figure out the structure of your business, how you want it to go, what you want it to do. Now, this accountant you might not go to all the time, so you might not be paying them all the time, but you want to make sure that you can have them on standby, or that you can use them or call them up or whatever when you need them. So those are the main things I think you should have. A contract, of course, is very important, and I would bring in a lawyer for that. But there are a lot of people who have started their medical billing business and they did not have a lawyer look it over. But a lawyer for me falls under the optional, but I think it's like a very important optional. So I'm going to go over the optional list. Now, optional would be a lawyer, but like I said, I think that's like the first, because to be honest, your contracts are really important, because if they're not worded correctly, if they're not signed correctly, then you might not even have a binding agreement, and things can really go haywire when things are not worded correctly in your contract. So having a lawyer is important. Having and I wouldn't say this is necessary, this is optional, because I have a trade name. So my LLC is a specific name, and then I have a trade name, meaning that I have doing business as name. So I put that as optional because you don't really need to have a trade name. Now, if you named your company Donna Summers LLC, that can be the name of your medical billing business. But most people like to have, nice fancy names. So it might be DNS Billing Company, and that would be a doing business as. So your business name would be Donna Summers, or whatever I said, LLC, and then it would be doing business as DNS Medical Billing Services. So, sometimes people have trade names. You don't have to have it, but again, that's an extra fee. Then, of course, you need to have a marketing budget. You need to have money for marketing. If you did not start off with a client, or maybe you even did, but you want to have more clients, you want to make sure you have a budget for marketing. A lot of times you think that you're just going to bring in a lot of clients, but that might not happen. So you need to have a budget for marketing. That would also include having a website, having a domain name. All of these things cost money. Then I would suggest to have your code books. Whether or not you're offering coding as a service, you always want to be up on the correct codes and the correct guidelines. So I would say have an up-to-date code book, whether that is an ebook or the actual physical tangible books. A lot of people ask about software and clearinghouses. Now, depending on the clients that you serve, you may not need to have software. You may not need to have a clearinghouse. But there are some providers who don't have softwares and don't have a clearinghouse. Maybe you may decide that you're not taking on those providers. But again, you would have thought about that and gone through that in our part 2, where we're discussing questions about what we do, what we don't do, who we serve, and who we don't serve. So in that, you would say, well, I'm not going to deal with any clients that don't have their own software. But you may decide to have software, and you need to get that in advance. Then you might want to have a space. Most of us may start off doing it in our homes, or doing it remotely, basically. But some of us may want to have a space to do it in, because if we can't do it at home, let's say there's too much people there and there's no space, we don't really have a dedicated area, because again, we are dealing with PHI, and we need to make sure that it is secure and that people are not going to see it. So you might want to get a space for that. So these are some optional things that you may want to consider when starting your own business. Again, the numbers will fluctuate, but technically you can probably start your own medical billing business with under $500. That being your license and whatever maybe structure you want the business to be. Again, the figure varies because it depends on which state you are in and what your state requirements are. So for me, again, I'm in the U.S. Virgin Islands. My state requirements, or my territory, because we're not a state, but my territory requirements were that I get a business license, and if I wanted to be an LLC, I had to form my LLC. And to form an LLC is $300 a year, and the business license was $130 a year. So that's $430 a year that I have to come up with to just keep my business structure. All of the other things that I mentioned is things that I believe that you should have on top of that, that you should be prepared to do, because your business license and your LLC structure will not help you bill for a provider. So you need other things like computers and printers and code books and all of those other things to help you actually provide the services of billing. So I hope that wasn't too confusing, and I hope you got something from it, but I couldn't give you an actual figure because then I would be lying to you. If I tell you it's going to cost you $50, your license alone in your state might be $300. But you need to know that, do that research, so when you're ready to start your billing business, if you decide you want to, you'll be prepared. So if you have any questions about starting the billing business, any costs that maybe I did not mention, then please do leave that below, and I will see you again in my next video.